Six Nations 2021. It's almost like the final. France against Scotland. Scotland can't win the title, but they can certainly get a higher finish than they've had in quite some time. Whereas Wales will be pretty interested in the outcome of this one because there's a number of scenarios which sees Wales get the title. Otherwise, there's a few scenarios that can see France get it done as well. So it's a bizarre year. It's going to be a blockbusting finish to the tournament. It's a pandemic, so it's maybe not too surprising that the end is a rescheduled game after COVID cases in the French camp saw the initial one postponed. But yeah, fortunately, most of the guys have been released from their clubs. There was a little bit of doubt about that because this falling outside the normal international window. But both sides look pretty strong. We'll go over the squads. There's some changes. I'll put the guys in the description as well. We'll go over some of the stats, the recent history, and the permutations as to who can win what in what scenario. But yeah, France, they are third, 3-1, just the one loss to England, which they'll be looking back right now with a wee bit of regret. Scotland managed to beat England and Italy, but they've lost their two other games. So, both sides will obviously still be pretty fired up, and Wales fans will certainly be hoping Scotland can do them a favour. But for the French, it's largely not too changed. There's a few. Baille, Marchand, and Haouas are the front rowers. So that's pretty stable. No one's really talking too much about the French front row, but they've been really good. Baille's got a hell of a work rate. He's made 35 out of 36 tackles in the tournament, which for a prop are pretty good numbers. Interestingly, Roux is back, which is great news because him and Willemse were a hell of a pairing at the start of the tournament, but obviously Willemse, he is suspended with the red card that he got in the last game, so he has been replaced by Rebbadj, who came on as a replacement in the last game. So good to see him get some minutes. But to be honest, Willems is a massive loss. Like, he's France's top tackler. He's their top dominant tackler. He misses very few tackles. Like, he is an absolute machine. So maybe not so much like at line-out time where you might expect, but just around the park, they will certainly miss him. Oh, it's great to have Roux back. Maybe that balances it out a bit, but don't underestimate the influence that Willemse has on the game. Jelonch, Ollivon, and Aldritt are the back row, and they have been phenomenal as well. Ollivon, I think, is their number one line-out guy. So in France, they're not really relying on their big locks to get that done. Ollivon's really athletic, so he's going to be an area that Scotland would do well to focus on to disrupt that line-out time. But remember, Scotland have had a wee bit of disruption in terms of their own locking stocks. Not last week, but it's continuing on that they haven't got their usual suspects. And Aldritt, he's their main ball carrier. So if you can shut down these two guys from a Scottish or Welsh point of view, Scotland will put themselves with a good chance. But from a French point of view, man, if Ollivon and Aldritt get cracking, they will be very, very hard to stop. Dupont has been one of the best players of the tournament, undoubtedly, probably the best number 9 in the world. Aaron Smith in New Zealand seems to think he is. He does amazing things. And one thing you might not know, which I didn't know when I looked up his stats, he's one of the top guys for stripping the ball in the tackle. So not only does he offload and put little kicks through and score tries, he also can defensively be a right nuisance. So he'll be key. Ntamack gets the run at 10 because remember, Jalibert is out injured. He got injured in the last game. So Ntamack got like an hour, I think, last time. So it's good that he's not coming fresh into the game, but he's the kind of classy player that you would expect just to hit the ground running, even if he hadn't been playing recently. Vincent gets a start. He was on the bench last week, so he's at 12. Vakatawa is still there at 13. He maybe wasn't as dangerous as maybe of the two midfielders. Fickou has probably been the more impressive in the French lineup this Six Nations. Fickou's been phenomenal. But don't underestimate Vakatawa, man. He will punish you if you give him a chance. That does mean Fickou moves to the left wing. Penaud switches to the right wing. And Dulin is still there at fullback. And I know everyone talks about Dupont, but Dulin has been one of the players of the tournament as well. Usually, maybe not so much in the last game, very secure under the high ball, good kicking game, and has liked really running the ball back and causing opposition defences a lot of problems. Gros, Antonio, Taofifenua, Creton, Cyril. Bouthier and Thomas are the replacements. Thomas has to drop down to the bench after starting last week, but maybe he wasn't as effective as we would like to have seen from him last week. For the Scots, Sutherland, Turner and Ferguson are the front row. So Turner swaps spots with Cherry. And remember I mentioned the Scottish line out. The last time Turner started, it was a wee bit all over the shop. And you don't just put that down to Turner because they'd replaced both their locks. Remember, they're playing Skinner and Gilchrist. It's usually Cummings and Gray. But both of those guys are unavailable. So that's definitely an area that the French will be looking to get some reward. But it's not an area in the Six Nations where France has really dominated. Like Ireland's been the team that really, likes to poach opposition line-out ball. But still, if Scotland don't get it right, they'll be in trouble. Richie, Watson, and Heining are the back row. So Matt Ferguson is out injured, which is a good thing if you're a French fan, because Matt Ferguson, he's another one that's in terms of maybe getting a little bit, I don't want to say underestimated, but overlooked a little bit. He's been really good. He's one of the Scottish top carriers. I think he might be their top carrier. Obviously, number 8 is going to carry the ball up a lot, but he's been just quietly very good. But he's replaced by Nick Hanning. Hamish Watson is not being overlooked. I think he's finally getting that kind of... He's good enough to be a proper British and Irish line starter. Maybe he won't, but he's good enough. There's a lot of good guys in that position. But 42 out of 43 tackles, according to the Six Nations stats. I think Opta has got him not missing any stats. He's won 4 turnovers in the competition on the ground, which is top 5 overall, which is an area that maybe, if you look at the French back row, they're not quite got that pilferer. So if Watson can get on, and he carries the ball a heap as well. I think he's second only to Matt Ferguson. So he's a proper unit, Hamish Watson, and Jamie Ritchie's no slouch either. If Scotland are going to have any chance, Hamish Watson would probably use a big game. Ali Price gets a start. Remember, he was on the bench last week. And another key one, Finn Russell is back starting. Remember, Hogg played at fly half last time. Hogg is back to his more familiar 15. So Finn Russell being back, you never know. If there's going to be a man to unlock the French defence, he might be your guy. Sam Johnson, Chris Harris is the midfield. So Chris Harris gets a start. He was on the bench last time. Duan van der Merwe, who's just been eating run meters for fun. He's on the left wing. Darcy Graham, big man, little man. On right wing, and then Stuart Holm back to fullback, as I said, more familiar for him. Cherry, Kebble, Bergen, Craig, Ryan Wilson's been called back into the squad, so good for him. I think it's his 50th cap as well. Scott Steele drops to the bench. Hastings' ban is over, so he's on the bench. And then Hugh Jones, who was immense last week, also drops to the bench. No Maitland. I think they couldn't get more than 5 players released, so I'm not sure if it was a selection thing or just he wasn't being released. I have read that he's... One site said he's just been dropped from the 23. Another one said that he's been not able to secure release. So yeah, I did mention a few guys not being fit. Obviously, Johnny Gray not being fit is a big loss for them because he is a big man in terms of that defensive work rate as well. But if the French are missing Willem, so it's kind of a like-for-like role that they have for their teams. Now, in terms of the stats, there's a lot of reasons why this game should be a pretty interesting one. They've both scored 15 tries, these teams. The leading try scorer for the French is Dupont with 3, and Duan van der Merwe also has 3. You look at their kind of tactical stats. France kicked the ball a bit more than the Scots. They're the 3rd most kicking team, and remember they've played a game less than all the other teams except for Scotland. Whereas Scotland are 6th. Scotland kicked the least. And then you reverse that for the carries. Scotland have carried the 3rd most, and France are 6th. So different styles can still get the same result because they've both scored the same amount of tries. France is definitely the team to watch for offloads. They're 1st overall, despite playing, as I said, a few one less game than everybody else except for Scotland. Italy is 2nd and Scotland are 3rd. So Italy made 30 offloads, Scotland 27, so that's 2nd to 3rd. France is 39. 39. Yeah, this is how they unlock your defence. Broken tackles. So guys who are just going to smash through, despite both of these teams, as I said, playing one game less, they're still 1st and 2nd in the Six Nations with one game in hand. France have had 129 broken tackles, Scotland 110, and then Ireland is 98, and then there's the rest of the pack. So that's like pure excitement factor on its own. These two teams smashing into each other. But interestingly, both of them have been defensively pretty solid. So it's kind of which is going to give. Is the defence going to hold up? If you look at missed tackles, Scotland has missed the least. Obviously, they've played one less game. And France is next. But Scotland has only missed 36 tackles in the whole tournament. France is 79, and they're still the next cab off the rank. So is it going to be defences that shut down the attack? Or is it going to be attack that just dominates defence? Will it balance out? It is a question. If you're looking for individuals, Duhan van der Merwe has the most broken tackles. Stuart Hogg is second. Brice Dulin is third, and then Teddy Thomas fourth. I know Thomas on the bench, but the top four guys are all playing in this game. If you look at the set piece stuff, both sides are pretty strong. Scotland has more turnovers, like I mentioned, has more line-out steals, but most of their big line-out steal guys are the guys who are not playing. I think Ferguson was one, Johnny Gray, Cummings, like all these guys have some line-out steals, but they're not playing. France have better discipline. They concede fewer penalties, which is, again, another step to success if you're not surrendering free territory or free points. Recent history is 3-2, with France winning 3 of the last 5, including the most recent one at Murrayfield in the Autumn Nations Cup, 22-15, which is actually the average score across the last 5 games. France averages 22 points and Scotland 15. The 2 games prior to that, though, were both Scottish wins. Last game in France was not in Paris, though. It was in Nice, and it was 32-3 to France. The last Scottish win in Paris was 1999. Gregor Townsend was at 10. Emile Ntamack was at 15. This is a long time ago. So if you're a Welsh fan, that probably doesn't sit that well. But it doesn't have to be a Scottish win for Wales to get the result. What has to happen? If Scotland win or draw, then the Six Nations title goes to Wales. France need to win, and they need to get 4 tries to get that bonus point because they need to have 5 points. If they win with the bonus point and by 21 points, then the title is French, going to France. If France win by 20 and score 6 tries, that will also give France the victory. If they win by 20, this is France, and score 5 tries, then it will be a shared title between France and Wales. So yeah, basically Wales need Scotland not to get a wee hiding, and France need to go and score 4 tries minimum, and then get a comfortable victory. But yeah, we'll see what happens, man. It should be a pretty interesting game. It's going to be the game of the weekend, even though it's on a Friday. It's on, I think, 9 a.m. over here in New Zealand, so it's like a nighttime game, 8 o'clock in most parts. I think that's probably 9 o'clock French time, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, man, should be an absolute cracker. I guess you guys can let me know your thoughts. 1, how do you think this game goes? And 2, how do you rate the French and the Welsh chances for the title? I know it's hard for the Scots because everyone is not talking about them. It's basically Wales against France for the title. But Scotland have their own reasons to want to to perform well as well. They've got their own motivation. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.